any veterans out there in the audience. Thank you for your service. And I want to thank Mr. Stratton for the opportunity to come and speak before you here today. My name is Damon Thrash, and I am the CEO and founder of Inc. 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 stands for Incarcerated to Incorporated. It's a program that helps currently and formerly incarcerated individuals with entrepreneurial aspirations transition from prison to business ownership via a 12-module personal development and entrepreneurial coaching curriculum and housing. How did I end up speaking here before you guys tonight? Well, there's two things that brought me here. The first thing was President Trump signing the First Step Act. Yeah. For anyone who's not familiar with the First Step Act, it's a sweeping criminal justice reform bill that has since released thousands of nonviolent drug offenders who deserve a second chance. The second point that brought me here tonight is my story and my purpose, which is to promote a second step. How did I bring all of this together? I know you guys all have heard the statistics of how many people are in prison and how it's affected the United States and its population. But I'm going to remind you. There are 2.2 million men and women serving prison time here in the United States. There are 105,000 men and women serving prison time here in the state of Florida. There are 70 million men and women in the United States that have a criminal history. Amazing, right? There are also 10 million children with one or more parent that's incarcerated. Now the thing about it here in the state of Florida, the population is 43% nonviolent drug offenders. Depending on your age, me, I'm 45, so I have fond memories of the 80s. Well, there were so many iconic movies, there was the fashion, there was the music, and for me, what hits home, that's the decade that hip hop pretty much went mainstream. But there's another side of the story. A much grimmer side that society is finally addressing. The emergence of crack cocaine and the mandatory minimum sentencing that came along with it. If you've heard of hustle, raise your hand. Anybody ever heard of the word hustle? Everybody has a hustle in it, right? But a few years back, if you talked with someone being a hustler, it was kind of not a good thing, you know what I mean? What you mean, that guy's a hustler? He's doing something bad, right? Well, everybody has a hustle, and it really determines whether you're doing something good with it or whether you're doing something bad with it, whether it's going to impact you the right way. Well, I grew up in 1984 in a small military town called Pensacola, Florida. All right. Pensacola, Florida is famous for its sugary sand, white beaches. I know there's some people in here from Sarasota, but I gotta tell you, Pensacola has some beautiful beaches. But the other side of Pensacola is, it used to be very, very, very rampant with the crack cocaine epidemic. And as a kid, I grew up in one of the toughest housing projects in Pensacola, a place called Truman Arms. They called it Saigon because of the constant gunfire that transpired all day and all night. Well, as a kid, walking outside of the door to play or just hang out with your friends, shoot some basketball, it was an open drug market. Can you imagine a kid that's 9 years old, as he walks outside his door, he's confronted with 20 or 30 guys that are making money hand over fist? Can you imagine seeing gunfire? Can you imagine seeing people using drugs on a consistent basis? But if you're from there, you don't understand what poverty is and that this is not normal. By the time 1987 hit, crack cocaine had hit the projects like an atomic bomb. Every block was an open drug market, but this life wasn't new to me. My stepdad was one of the few dealers who introduced cocaine to the city of Pensacola. I watched my stepfather transform powder cocaine into rock cocaine, and effortlessly make thousands and thousands of dollars. A short time later, he recruited me to deliver packages from building to building that contained money and drugs. The good life that this provided, the illusion as a kid, having things and not, being hungry and not wanting, it was something that I never thought twice about. Because me as myself, I hadn't forged in my mind what exactly it is that he's doing. Well, he ended up going to jail. And once he went to jail, all of the nice steak dinners, the nice sneakers to go to school with, the nice clothes, all that stuff stopped. I was a kid who loved sports. I was pretty gifted in academics. However, I just had no outlets and no positive mentorship to show me what's the next step. No one talked to me about college. The only thing that I saw was people coming from rags to riches, peddling drugs in an open market. Well, unbeknownst, by the age of 12, I was fully fledged into the drug game, and I was one of those kids that was selling crack cocaine on the corner. Can you imagine a kid that's 12 or 13 years old, is making $500, $600 a day? What can his teacher tell him? He's making more than a teacher. Years later, at the age of 19, I had made many mistakes. I had a few run-ins with the law. My illegal enterprise really took off. Me and myself, along with a close associate, we would ascend to a level in the business, because that's what it was. Actually, it was a business. It just was illegal versus legal. We were ascend to a height that we never would dream that we would accomplish. Everybody wants a home. Everybody wants to have a nice car. Everybody wants to be able to provide for their family and take care of their family. These were the things that I saw other dealers doing, and I wanted to emulate that. Over the years, me and my friends would go on to make a couple of $1 million, and that's pretty successful without first entering prison or being sentenced to the rest of your life in jail. Over that course of time, business was good, things were great. Have you ever heard of a drug dealer retiring? No, right? The movies, all that stuff don't end well, does it? Well, I actually had an opportunity to retire. I had got away with what I didn't really think was a bad thing. It was just a way of life for me. But you know how the movies go. Somebody always comes knocking needing to pull you back into something that you really had no business doing in the first place. So a long-time associate of mine, he talked me back into reestablishing myself in the drug game. Yeah. No more than a year later, I was abruptly arrested and charged with conspiracy to traffic over 150 kilos of cocaine. It was a blur to me. I never seen it. I had saw the inside of a jail, but I had lawyers. You have liquid cash flow and you're able to buy your way out of trouble. And as a kid, I thought that was just, that's the cool thing to do. I'm not worried about it. I got my lawyer. Well, this time, there was no lawyer could help me. No lawyer could move me because I was considered a dominant role or a leadership role in what you call a high-end cocaine conspiracy. Wow. Eventually, I was sentenced to 20 years. I was sentenced to 20 years in prison at the age of 22 years old. To me and everybody else that I knew, my life was over. There was nothing anyone could tell me, oh man, it's going to be all right, it's going to be fine. I got 20 years, man. So my only hope was that my appellate attorneys would set me free. So I banked on it. I kept my mind focused on that. So when I hit prison, I realized something else too. I almost knew half of the guys in here. You know? So it didn't propel me at that moment to change my life. You know, they say preparation meets opportunity. I was preparing, but I was preparing in the wrong way to meet the wrong opportunities. But now in prison, I was faced with a brick wall. So I continued to do the same thing that I was doing while I was in prison that I was doing on the street. Yes, drugs are sold in prison. Yes, there are all the illegal things that go on in prison. A cell phone goes for $500. Yes. But it's funny though. I'm gonna regress a little bit. When I was about 6 years old, I had a grandfather. My grandfather was a great man of God.
Hallelujah.
Oh yes.
He prayed.
Taught me how to pray. Taught me the Lord's Prayer. Taught me who God was. Taught me who I was in Christ. Also, he was a deacon. And he drove the church bus. He picked all the kids up in the projects. And I was his grandson. So I had to really stand up and step up in the paint. And he would take us to church. Well, while in prison, everything that he taught me, I knew it. It came back to me. Without me having to read the word, it was embedded in my heart.
That's right.
So as I looked around, I realized something. Man, you have a long time to do it. So I just started reading. I loved to read as a kid. I was curious. In the African American community, if you're curious and you're moving around and you're into too much stuff, they say, that boy's bad. You need to stop him. He's in the stuff. I was in the stuff. I just love knowledge. I just love to see. Well, I discovered something. I discovered that I had a knack for leadership. A lot of the guys that I met in prison, a lot of the guys that were there before me that knew me, they knew my story. And although I had took it for granted, they saw me accomplish some pretty amazing things in the wrong field, but amazing nonetheless. And at a young age. So these guys would follow me to the ends of the earth. So as I rediscovered my relationship with Christ, I discovered who I was as a man. A man's thoughts frame who he is. As a man thinketh, so shall he be. So as I continued to read books on entrepreneurship, I read books on philosophy, I read books on science, I read anything that really attracted my eye in personal development that would pretty much transform me and put me in a position to create opportunities for a second chance for myself and for the other people that were around me. But there was another problem, another obstacle, seemed insurmountable at the time. In the state of Florida, you do 85% of your time. You don't do anything less. There was no programming. There was nothing that you could do to get your time reduced. I don't care how many people you wrote. I don't care how many classes you completed of self-help or government or faith-based. Nothing could move you. Also, there was nothing there, no programming to help individuals who wanted to change their lives, who wanted to discover their purpose and use God's gifts and talents that He blessed us with to create a better life. There was no opportunities for you to do that. So I thought about it. I never just sat around before and waited for somebody to hand me anything. I've always been enterprising. I've always been a self-starter. I've always been a leader. So I created one. And that which I created was called E2E. I met some of the most talented and kind men in prison. Don't get me wrong, I met some people in prison who deserve to be there. But like I said, half the population, these were guys that didn't come from my background. They came from shipping. They came from truck driving. They came from maritime. And these guys just made a mistake, or they got caught into some things that they were grandfathered into as a child. And I learned so much from them about different cultures. I met people from Africa. I met people from Russia. I met people from Australia. And the one common thing that we all had in common was our desire to change, our desire to help the people where we come from, be better people. Well, as I started to create this program, I was reflecting how I seen this guy paint this remarkable painting. I mean, it looked like something. I really don't like Picasso paintings. They look kind of weird to me. To each his own, right? But I seen this guy. He was from Chicago. He painted a canvas that it looked like you could dive into it. And he did this constantly, week after week after week after week. Officers would pay him on the side for him to paint his wife's portrait, his kids, and things of that nature. But the guy wasn't in there for harming someone. He was in there because he was selling drugs, and that's the way he grew up. He wanted something different. I also knew guys who could play sports. Did you know that you got these sports guys on ESPN, right? They can quote every statistic. That's because their producer has an earpiece and they're telling them, right? I know guys that don't have an earpiece or producer. They can quote stats from every sport you can name. I watch guys create gambling businesses by writing tickets and selling these tickets on the compound with spreads. Same thing that Vegas does. And make a living. It just astonished me. But then I looked within and saw the things that I wanted to do. I was reading about screenwriting. I was halfway through my first movie script. So these skills that these guys had and that I had, I realized that they were transferable. It was a Colombian guy named Jose Blanco. He walked up to my bunk one day and he handed me a book. He said, "You need to read this. This guy was trying to do it. He did what you're trying to do over 30, 40 years ago." I looked at the cover of the book, and it was a book by Napoleon Hill. The book was called Think and Grow Rich. So when I got the time, I sat down and I started reading this book. And I just couldn't put it down. It just opened up a whole entire world to me. It showed me and helped me identify the talents that I had and how to transfer those talents into something valuable to help the very people that I had helped destroy, my own community. So after I read that book 3 times, I started drafting Ink to Ink. And what Ink to Ink actually does, that 12-module program starts with showing the individual who is enterprising, that is in prison, or who has been negatively affected by mass incarceration, that there are people who come from the same background as you come from, who've been in prison, or who are still in prison, that have become successful. Yes, you have people who actually run profitable businesses from prison. The next thing it does, it helps you identify your talents, your purpose, and your hustle. That's one thing everybody understands that they have also. Everyone is gifted by God with a measure of talent. So as we do that, we bring them in to showing them how to implement social impact and what exactly is social impact and how does it work. So we bring them back into the very community which they helped tear down, which for me, it would be substance abuse centers. So we will help them identify how to be impactful and how to have empathy for the very people who have been done the most damage through their illegal actions and through their crimes. We also walk them through and show them how to create a business concept. Not a full-fledged business plan that takes 60 or 70 pages, but something that they can see their business on paper and they can quickly take that product to market. In between that, we have personal development. How to use reflection marketing, because when you look in the mirror, what you see is what you get. And they understand that, to add value to anyone else, I have to add value to myself. So as I continue to create this program, I started putting out testers and telling people, hey, what it is that you want to do, besides, hustling drugs, or besides stealing TVs, or whatever you was doing to try to support your family. What is it that you want to do? And I was amazed by some of the responses that I got. Some guys wanted to do stock. Some guys wanted to do home improvement. Some guys wanted to do concrete. Some guys wanted to, do sports medicine and sports science. But most of them just wanted to do retail and go back to the community, create a business, and give people jobs and provide for their family. So at that point, I just dug deep, and I realized something. Well, you need a proof of concept. You need to show people that this is possible, what you're talking about. So I created a company while in prison that helped me create a proof of concept. And I launched that business in 2014 with 2 more years left on my prison sentence. At that point, I had several individuals that were in my pilot program while I was in prison, and I was teaching them these very principles, going through these very modules while we were inside. Well, right now to this day, one of our success stories, he got out before me, and he launched a tech app. This app creates the opportunity for individuals who are in prison, or if their family is in the military, that they can create a letter off of their phone by uploading their information, texting that letter, and sending it off. And that letter will be transcribed from their home office and mailed out that very same day. It eliminates the pen, it eliminates the paper, it eliminates you running into Walmart trying to gather up all of these things. Because, time and health are our most valuable commodities. So when he got out and he launched this, I was just amazed. And, he was just so supportive and just excited about what he was doing and what he learned, So at that point, I ended up going to work release. Now I got this program, I got it written out, I'm trying to set it in a place to where I can reach the right people. Well, you know how God moves. Whatever it is that you're doing, He's going to surround you with those people. On the day that I was released from prison, September 28, 2016, I had a full-fledged film team that had jumped on to my company, Violent Hustle Media, to film my documentary and to show my proof of concept, and who believed in my program. Well, in mid-2016, on my way out of the door, I was more excited. I was more gracious and just more humble of how I was blessed and how I had transformed from a liability to an asset. And how I became a solution to help so many individuals, not only the people that are in prison, but their families who are doing time with me. So as I walked out, it wasn't about me anymore. It was about the people that I was leaving behind, and every individual like yourselves that I would speak to. I would tell them about anything. I would tell them about the people that I left behind. I would tell them about those success stories. And I would make sure that everything that I learned and everything that they learned wouldn't go in vain. So think about it. Trump signs the First Step Act a year and a half ago. Guys and women in prison were like, they had gave up a long time ago because it's always a rumor. Oh, there's going to be programming coming out. You're going to be able to get closer to your family. You're going to be able to come home. But it never happened. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now is the time.
Amen.
By sharing my knowledge, journey, and new hustle with the world, I plan to make Ink to Ink's Hustle Smarter program, because that's what it is. We teach individuals how to hustle smarter. We want to make that a household name in every community, not just marginalized, not just disenfranchised, but every community. Because we need change makers. We need people that come in who can invest in communities who are less fortunate. We need people who understand not the action or not what the person's going through, but that everyone here in this country belongs here and they deserve an even footing. They deserve a starting spot at that line with everybody else. Our second thing is to educate, inspire, and call to action, not just currently and formerly incarcerated entrepreneurs and people with criminal histories, but every entrepreneur, every citizen. Third is to rebuild communities, but rebuild them by families first.
Amen.
Fourth,
Yes. Yes.
to hustle smarter and change the hearts and minds of legislators and public officials who didn't believe in second chances. I think that's all we have. With God as my guide, I officially launched Ink to Ink and Divine Hustle Media. Insurmountable. I was in prison. It's unheard of. Well, we're on the verge of rolling out our program. We just completed our pilot, our first pilot student that's in the free world. He's scheduled to graduate within the next couple of months. And we're pre-revenue, by the way. Everything that we're doing now is out of our own pocket. And we don't know where it comes from. It comes from God, because the income that I got, we really don't know. So, what I'm going to say before I leave the stage tonight is I'm going to give you guys a call to action. Put your hustle where your heart is. Even if it doesn't look like something that you're used to, or they don't look like you, or even for me, I wouldn't approach people who looked outside of my community when I was in the mindset, that incarceration mindset. Now you can't stop me from talking. Y'all gonna have a problem with me in this room in a minute. I'm gonna be talking to everybody, you know? So just reach out and compassionately, if it's nothing but volunteering your time, do that. Place your hustle where your heart is. Let God work for you. And everybody have the opportunity to go from incarcerated to incorporated. Thank you.